Good evening, everyone. My name is Dan, Daniel Morris to be in full. Before we get started, maybe just a bit of housekeeping. Um, I think what what we will certainly be doing today is most likely we'll be going through CRM Dynamics 365 customization and configuration. So today, I think we can all have a chance to see what the product looks like, what are the various things that we can do with the product, and time permitting, we might at the tail end talk about certification for those that are wanting to get into the field and wondering what it is that they need to have and what they need to do to be able to, eventually land a position within the Microsoft Dynamics 365 space. So, without further ado, what I'll do is I'll go dive straight into Dynamics 365 and can we all see my screen? If you could put a yes in the chat. Right, fab. Right. Right. So Dynamics 365. What is Microsoft Dynamics 365? Microsoft Dynamics 365 is, in a way, if I want to break it down, to the simplest of things, it's more like a database. So it's a place where we store data, or organizations store data. And when that data is stored, it's obviously stored in various ways and various entities or places where the data is stored, which eventually would allow an organization to retrieve that data and obviously, in a way make sense of the data that the organization has to their disposal. And eventually an organization can make informed decision based on that data, or even manipulate that data, to get, good positions within an industry. As we all know, nowadays, data is equivalent to oil. So data is the new oil. So what it is Dynamics 365. Today, we'll mostly look at the customer service module. There's various, I think, for those that were on the first course that we did a few weeks ago, we did speak about how many or what sort of other flavors are out there of Microsoft Dynamics, be it financials, be it project service, and so on and so forth. So today we're looking at customer service. So basically, this could be used by different, almost every industry vertical. Every so often, we've got people that call into organizations, expressing, say, for argument's sake, grievances that they might have with a particular organization. So customer service has got the capability to create cases, and or in certain instances, they could be called incidents, which can capture any complaints or any grievances that one might have against a particular organization. which allows the internal staff to look at that particular grievance, and then in turn they can act on it, accordingly, and then notify the particular customer or stakeholder um, of what would have happened, or the outcome of that particular transaction. So at the top here, we've got a bar. It's not necessarily a menu bar, to be quite honest with you. What it does is the menu sits on the left hand side, but it's just showing us a navigation of where we are sitting at the present moment. So we are in the service module, and we're in a dashboard. And the concept of dashboards is when a team or a particular team would like to see data or aggregated data in one place. And then obviously the organization can make various, informed decisions, or they can um, manipulate that data straight from that particular dashboard, and do all kinds of processes or processing or manipulations, and and uh, and then resolve, be the case, or create a new case, or add accounts or contacts, and so on and so forth. So for in-depth talk on the various aspects, we will do that as we trot along. And also here, right at the top, we've got what is known as a global search. So what happens with a global search is um, it's a search functionality which is inbuilt in Microsoft Dynamics. And what it does is it allows you to search anything and everything within your solution, and it will pull out any related records to what it is that you might have typed in the global search. So let's see, maybe I might have someone called Dan in there, if we are lucky, or I think, or a John. I'm not so sure who we have in there, to be honest. Yeah, so we've got someone called John, and it also shows you that John is in there as an account. John could be in there as a contact. John could be in the system as an account, or we could have an activity which is related to John within the system. And if there's anything that's related to John, it will pop it up straight away. And then the second thing is we've got what is known as a task flow. And a task flow, basically what it is it just shows you, or it guides you on what you intend to do. So you could have particular tasks that are done within an organization in various ways. And for someone maybe who's new, you could actually direct them to a task flow, and what they will do is they would be guided on what it is that they can do within the particular task. And then the other thing also, what we have is called what we have in D365 is what is called an assistant. And this is more of an AI type of thing, but unfortunately we are not using this in our environment, so I'll probably not be able to demonstrate quite a bit about this. But with time permitting, I might reconfigure it and then show you what an assistant will do. but it's more like uh, an artificial intelligence type of thing that is added within Microsoft Dynamics. And then also we've got an ability to create various things. So we could create an account, we could create a case, we could create categories. Categories interrelated to cases, so we'll probably look at that when we get into cases. We could create a contact, and the contact is usually an individual that the organization deals with within with an organization. An account, more than likely, it's a business or an organization that deals with your particular organization as well. So this is more like a B2B, and contact is more like B2C. And then we've got customer assets. Customer assets, to be quite honest with you, it's basically just a denotion of extra fields, extra data that you can append to either a contact or an account, rather. And say you've got a particular organization that you work with, and that organization supplies stuff to your particular organization. So it could be, goods or services. So you can put extra values to the account details just to denote what they do. So you could say that, they are an account, and what sort of products, they supply. Or you can even create a new product line that you add into it. And then we've got what is also known as an advanced find. So an advanced find is basically just an inbuilt way of querying data within your solution. So you can query particular data depending on certain parameters that you might put in your query. And the beauty of advanced find is you do not have to know things like SQL. All you need to do is just to know what entity or where that data is residing. And once you know that, then you could easily manipulate that data. If it decides to wake up, but I think we're getting there. And yes, so the beauty of advanced find is you can do quite a lot with it, but it has its own limitations as well. So if I toggle into this particular box, you can see that these are all the entities that are within my solution. So if I do a bit of work which entails orders, I can check in orders, for argument's sake, how many orders are within the system, or how many orders have we processed, and so on and so forth. You can do a query against leads, you can do a query against letters. So it's pretty much all kinds of data that you've got within your particular instance. And you can do queries against contacts that might be sitting within your organization. So for argument's sake, let's just check to see how many active contacts we have in here. And bearing in mind, this is just a dev, which we mostly use for training, so there isn't much data. Yeah, there's only two bits of information there, but we'll use it a little bit more as we go forward, and you'll be able to understand exactly how we can, utilize the advanced find functionality. And then we've got the settings. Um, so in the settings, there's various things that you could do in your settings. And basically, you are looking at your particular instance and your machine, and there's various things you can configure here. So you can see that the way I've configured um, my account is that when I bring up records, I want to show up to 250 records at any given time. Or you can change it to say, you know what, when you select records within a view, I only want to see 25 at a time, or 50, 100, or whatever the case may be. And the time zone as well is something that is very key when you do your transactions. Because, for instance, I am in London, so I've configured my time zone to be within London, and I use the GMT. What then happens is, if I were to send an email and the email is coming out of Dynamics 365, this is the time that will be appended to the email. And also, if I was to create any activities, this will be the time that will be on my activities. So it's quite key that this is configured correctly. And then we've got currency. Currency, yes, you can configure it if you want. Mine hasn't been configured, but obviously because I'm in London, straight away I've got the option to use GBP. And if I'm doing things, that would require currency, maybe if it's transactions and things like that, then obviously it'll be important to configure the currency. Um, and then synchronization. This is actually just synchronization with your Outlook folders and Microsoft Exchange folders. But in all honesty, as a general user, you don't really need to do this to do any sort of like configurations at this level. This is mostly done by system admins, of which I think some of us at some point will be system admins. But when we get to the actual configurations, I might be able to show you how you can configure this. And there is also a way this can be configured remotely, and there's various tools that can be done to configure this remotely. So there's things like XRM2 box. It's quite a handy tool if you're working within the Microsoft Dynamics 365 space. And then obviously we've got activities. Uh, Here I've just defaulted my activities to show on a day by day basis. And then there's email templates. I think what I'll do is I'll probably have to jump, because for the sake of brevity, if I go through every single thing, we might not even touch a quarter of this, because this is quite vast. But however, if you have any queries, feel free, to pop them in the chat window, or at the end of the session, we can have, a little carry through for those that have a bit of time. And then the other thing as well that you need to set is the language. And for me, I'll set it down to English, which is the language that I understand. If I configure it to Spanish, then I'll be lost. Right. And then right at the far end, this is just user information, and this is myself. It shows you the organization and whether you are logged in or signed in, or you're signed in, or you need to sign out. So for the menu itself, this is the home button. So if I go to the home button, I've set my home screen to default to the dashboard, but you can obviously configure this to default to whatever view or screen that you would want it to default to. And if I look at my activities, these are activities that I have created. We'll go and create a few activities in a bit. And so if we start with accounts, right, we've only got one account here, but let's see if there's more accounts within the system. There's a few and they don't have, there's only three. Anyway, not a problem. So when it comes to things like accounts, you can clearly add new accounts as you go along. So if I hit the new account button, um, I'll create a new account called Blue Sky. Sorry, can't type. Blue Sky. And for the telephone number, I will give it an imaginary telephone number. If the organization has got a fax, you can do that. And then if Blue Sky has got a website, sky dot com, and at a particular organization, you might have a primary contact. So this is a person that there is a primary go-to person for that particular account, and if they have a contact, you can add them onto there. But for this one, let's create a new contact for this particular account. And let's create a new contact called Sam Smith. And this person, let's say, is the account manager. And the account itself, it could have a name, but obviously we haven't finished creating our account there. Would marry the two once we've created the contact. So our da, 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 da. And maybe this is their direct number, and that's their business phone number. And we could put a description there should we wish. It's not a mandatory field, so you can leave it blank depending on your um, on how you would want to keep the data. And then for the address, let's say it's 5 Green Street. Um, uh, uh, Postcode, for argument's sake, the postcode is, UD10 for if there is such a thing. Right. Um, I think we have a Sam Smith in there that was created, but this is not a duplicate, so I'll ignore and save. So we've got what is also a duplicate detection rule within the system where we can detect duplicates within the system. So I could be trying to enter a record that already exists. And what CRM does, or the duplicate detection rules do, is they pick out any names that are quite similar, and then it will pop it to you just to say, we've already got this record. Are you sure this is a new record, or it's a different record? It's just a coincidence where names are the same. And yes, I will not bother populating majority of the stuff. So I will save our record here. And then once you see the name appearing right at the top, it shows that we've got an account called Blue Sky. And these are some of the details, for Blue Sky. And we've got a primary contact called Sam Smith, who's an account manager. And once you hover over that particular record, it then shows you a little bit more. This is, their telephone number, the business telephone number, and this is the address. So if I was to navigate back to accounts, you'll notice now we've got 2 accounts. And with the view, this particular view, it shows is under my active accounts because I have created the account. So I'm the owner of that account. But you can toggle to a different view where you can see all accounts, and you can see now it sits against the other 3 accounts that we already had within the system. And now if I navigate to accounts, as we noticed earlier on that, we added Sam Smith, and this is the account that we added. But we can then go into Sam's account, and you will notice these are all Sam's details as a set, and I can just marry that with this particular account and save and close. Right, ignore. It keeps telling me that I have this. Right, so you can notice, actually, I think for clarity, let's just change this name so that it's slightly different and save. Save and close. So here we are, we've got Sam Smith, and you can, amend this data however, you want to amend the data. There is another functionality which is inside Microsoft Dynamics, which is an auditing function where you can audit all the changes that would have happened on this particular record. So it records all the changes. If I was to go in and change something on that particular record in the audit um, log, it will show who made the change, at what time they made the change, and what the actual change was. So, as you can notice quickly, you can marry accounts with contacts. So this is our particular account in this case, and we've got a contact called Samuel Smith, and they are sort of like the go-to person for that particular account. And also the views that we've got here. Um, Microsoft Dynamics, what it does is it comes in with quite a lot of inbuilt views, and all these views are already in there. But however, you've got the opportunity to create your own views if you so wish. And with the particular views, you can show what sort of data you would, you are willing to see, and how that data should appear in your particular view. And I'll show you when we probably do when we start doing the configuration side of things, how we configure views. And then we've got something as well which is called social profiles. And as you can see, there is no social profiles in here that we've created, but I will go ahead and create a profile as we go along, and then we can come back here and you will see how everything ties in together. Um, and then if we go into the actual servicing side of things, we've got the cases. So, like I was saying earlier on, with the cases, you are looking at an incident that you might want to record. And also with the cases, what it does is it gives you the opportunity to append any activities that you might want to append to that particular case, be it an email, or when the case was created, you would notice that how was the case created, and then when you start communicating with the customer or the organization, whatever the case may be, you also notice that all the interactions will be done within the particular case. So when one goes into a case, they will not need to go anywhere else to see what transpired from the day the case was created to that present day, or until the case was eventually closed, because everything is recorded within the case. So it becomes more of a single source of truth. Um, so here, we'll go ahead and create a new case. And with cases, you can give your cases, title, titles, um, or there's another thing as well where you can configure your environment to have any email that comes within the organization and it's a complaint, it will automatically pick out the header within the email and then create a case against that particular email. And then the email is eventually hooked onto the case itself. So let's create a case here, and the title, I'll say a problem with registration. registration. Case number, I don't need to put in any case number. The system will auto-generate a case number for me, which is unique to that particular case. And then with the thing called subjects, subjects are basically a way of I would say probably streamlining things within your particular organization. So, say for instance, we are talking of Blue Sky, which is an educational entity. So we could have various subjects, like student support, things like admissions, or things like finance, and so on and so forth. And what you then do is, say, for instance, you've got a finance department. Once you've got a case and you've put a subject of finance, that case automatically goes. You can configure the system to make that case automatically go and sit within the finance team. So it will fall into the finance team queue, and people within the finance team can then process that particular case, do whatever needs to be done, and then they can eventually resolve that case. So I'll just put a default subject. And then in this case, let's add um, our Samuel Smith, because this is the person that has got a problem, and the origin. You can also say, how did this case come about? So it could be a question that Samuel Smith actually phoned into the organization, spoke to someone, and then the person on the other end of the phone actually created this particular case, or they would have sent an email. And with an email, there's two ways. You could configure your system to get the case to be generated straight away once it hits the mailbox, or someone can physically just look at emails and then create a case, or you can hook your CRM to a website, and depending on whatever values are populated within that website, a case is created. You, you could generate cases from Facebook. So for some of us who are on Facebook, what you can actually do is you can get people posting from Facebook into your organization. You create an organization Facebook page, and configure certain fields. And once they populate information within those particular fields, a case is generated straight away. Or you could even configure Twitter or Internet of Things. So in our case, we'll say we had an email, or let's say someone phoned, and then and then with products, we haven't put any products in here, but let's say for argument's sake, it's a case related to a particular, product. You can select the products in there, but since we have any products, we'll say, what, it's not a product. And entitlement is another thing as well, but we haven't got entitlement configured. Description. So this is where you can put in, a bit more meat to, the case. So Samuel is not happy about X, Y, Z. And you can put in, a bit more information. And once you do that, I save the case. And once the case has been saved, you will notice it will now appear in my active cases view. And if I navigate into the case, we should also see that the case by now should have a case number, which has been auto-generated by the system. And the case numbers, they can be configured also to display in various ways. So if we've got time, we'll probably go through that and I'll show you as system admins how you can configure the case numbers to appear. Or you could actually create what is known as a plugin. So it's actually a C sharp class that you can use to determine how the case number will appear. With time, we might be able to see some of those things. Now, if I go into the case details, you would notice that this is the case title and all the other various bits of information there. And I could add additional information to that particular case and say, is this case a question? Is it a problem or is it a request? So in our case, I'll probably say it's a problem. Does it have a parent case? In this instance, it doesn't have a parent case. So we'll leave it as it is. And what we can also do is we can create a child case of this. So I could receive this case and deal with a particular case. But along the way, I then realized that whatever our customer has asked for, not everything is within my remit. So I can then create a child case and maybe assign that child case to Deji, and Deji might be working in the finance department, and Deji would actually deal maybe with financial aspects of the query. And once Deji is completed his bit, he will close his case, and then I can eventually close the parent case. And is it an escalation? For now, it's not an escalation. Is it a follow-up? You can put follow-ups, to say would want to make a follow-up, on this particular day. And then it will then say, was there a response? For now, there's no response. So it will default to no. And there's element of service level SLAs as well. So because there's no responses yet, so you will notice there is nothing in here and the case is still open, so this will remain with no data up until the case has been resolved. And then on the other side, you will notice we've got the social details. So this is the social profile I was talking about, but because Samuel Smith hasn't got a social profile, so there will be nothing here. And this is also picked from elsewhere. But however, you do not need to keep your forms as my form here, which I'm showing you. You can always manipulate this form to show fields that are only relevant to your business organization needs, or you can hide certain fields, or you can reveal certain fields depending on what it is that you might need to do. And right at the top here, we've got what is known as a business process flow. So a business process flow, what it does is it guides people within the organization on how to carry through certain processes. So you can configure the business process flow to guide people in whatever particular way you would want people to be guided. So for argument's sake, I can guide it, I can build a BPF in short, which lets me collect data. And then when I get to a certain point, I have to do certain actions before I can move forward. So if I don't do certain actions, it will not allow me to move forward. So maybe here where it says research, I could put a marker to say when the case gets to this point, maybe you would want that case to be approved by a senior manager or so. And once it's approved by a senior manager, it can then move forward to the next session. So um, case relationships. In here, this only shows us if there's child cases related to this case, and in our case, we haven't got any child cases. Or you can actually merge two cases into one. So Samuel Smith could have phoned the organization, and I create a case, but my colleague, uh, for argument's sake, a James, would have seen the email that was sent in by Samuel, which I hadn't seen, and they've just gone ahead and created another case as well. And afterwards, we then realized that there's two cases that have been created for the same person or the same organization. So you can then go ahead and merge the two cases. So if there's any cases that have been merged, they would appear in here. And if there's any knowledge article, associated knowledge records, they would appear here. And we'll show you knowledge records as we move along a bit later. So say for instance now into save SLAs. SLAs you can configure to say when a case is opened, you give it a bit of time to say within 24 hours it should have been actioned by someone within the team. And then maybe within 60 hours that case should be resolved. Come rain, come sunshine, it should be resolved. That will then help in, especially management when they try to do reports, and then they can easily see how the team is performing when cases are created and what's the turnaround and so on and so forth. So that data could be harvested and pushed into reporting tools like Power BI, manipulated, and management can try and make sense of that data. And then related things, this could be related activities, or if there's any documents that have been appended to the case, they will show here. If there's any connections, it's another big topic in itself. They will show here. But what I'll probably do is a little bit later, we'll try and create connections so we can, build a whole picture of everything. And the audit history that I was talking about earlier on would show in here of what transpired, on that particular case. And in this instance, we can notice not much, has happened. So hence, it's still blank. And then if you've got any work orders that you're working with, or if you've got any IoT alerts uh, switched on within your environment, those would show here as well. So say for instance, within this case, um, if this case had been created via email, would have had an email activity here. But however, we can create activities if we so wish. So now let's try and create a new activity. I'll probably create, an appointment to say this case has been created, and we probably need to sit down, with Sam and any other people that might be involved, and then discuss whatever it is that needs to be discussed. So subject, I'll just put a new subject. Location, whatever location that might be. So this could be, an address, or whatever it is, that whatever place that people might be wanting to meet up to discuss this. So I'll probably say the location will be meeting room one. And when is that supposed to start, this appointment? So already it defaults to now, but maybe we might say we want this to start at 11, and go on for 30 minutes, or should we want it to go on for the whole day? You can put in a description as well. And regarding, you notice this is pre-filled because it's regarding the case. So this is the case itself. And priority, is it normal? Is it low priority, or is it a high priority thing? So we'll probably call it a high priority thing. Now you'll notice we've got an activity here. And as time goes along, when you get closer to that particular time, if I created this, you would have noticed that something would start popping up in my screen just to notify me that I've got an appointment, at whatever time. For those of us that use Outlook, it's more or less the same functionality as Microsoft Outlook. So I think I've spoken quite a bit. Is there any questions that we have? If not, then we can carry on. Already we've got a question that came in from Sarah, and Sarah says, what is CRM? CRM stands for Customer Relationship Management. So it's basically a way of dealing with relationships with your customers, and capturing the transactions that happen, in that relationship, in a nutshell. So whatever conversations I had, whatever emails go back and forth, those can be seen within the customer relationship management system. Uh, right. Michael was asking, why is this page of the dashboard titled Sandbox? Right. So it's titled Sandbox because it's for me, I'm using this as a training environment, and a sandbox is basically an environment that you use for developing things. It's not actually a production. So in most organizations, what most organizations tend to do is they have three instances at any given time. One being your sandbox, where you do, your development work, your customizations, your configurations, and then you can have a test environment. So when the development team has done, their coding or their configurations and stuff, they will then invite whoever has asked for a change within the organization, and then that person can go into the test environment, test whatever it is that has been developed, and then confirm if it's been developed correctly or configured correctly. And if the answer is positive, then that change can be progressed into what is known as a production environment. Some instances they call it the live environment. And what it is with the live environment, that's you know, the environment that everyone uses within the organization. So the whole idea to have three instances is just to make sure that when a change is done, you don't interrupt those, or you don't interrupt, you don't interrupt those that are working, and it's done somewhere else. It's then progressed onto the next environment, which is the test environment, and it's then promoted into the live solution. And some cases, you've got certain organizations, they've actually got four instances, and they have what is known as a pre-prod. And a pre-prod is just a pre-production environment, which should be an exact replica of their production or live environment. And this is where confirmation is done to show that the changes that have been done are working correctly and done as per the user's requirements. And can Sandbox be used for sole purpose or is only for organization? Sandbox, it should in a way be used solely for development work, not for production purposes. This is the environment that developers work in and do their changes. And you might notice that the sandbox is where new things are tried, and certain things might not even be working in a sandbox. So this is more like a playground. And once you feel that something has been done and is working properly, that's when it's promoted into the next environment. Sarah says, can you explain what you meant by child relationships? So parent-child relationships. Okay, I'll come on to that. Is this ticket generated automatically or it has to be assigned manually? So I'll start by answering Ibrahim's question, and then I'll go back to Sarah, because for Sarah, I think it'll be easier to show you um, the child relationships as you see it on screen vis-a-vis me just explaining it away. So when the case has been generated, what then happens is you can then assign it to certain people, and you can assign a case using what are known as workflows, or you can manually assign a case to someone. So say for instance, I open this case and I am the owner of that particular case. And if I need to assign this case to a colleague of mine, I can assign it through here. And then that case would go to someone else. or I can even assign it to a team, not just a user. And if we had teams, you would have seen, the teams there. But there's only users. So I can assign this case to another user. For argument's sake, I'll put in that. Okay. No, the person that I was trying to assign it to doesn't have a security role in this environment, so it will not assign it to them. But when it comes to assigning cases, you can assign it through the assignment functionality here, or you can just assign it through here and then just change the owner. So depending that the other person is within the system, you can do it. You can pretty much do it from there. And then to go back to, is there a trial version we can use for practice? I'll give you a link to spin a trial instance, and I'll post it in the chat window in a little while. And then to go back to Sarah's case, can you explain what is meant by child relationships? So, when it comes to child relationships or child case relationships, what happens is I might have opened this case here, but I realize that whatever is required to resolve this case, um, I cannot complete all the work myself, and someone else might need to do, a bit of work on that to complete that. So, for argument's sake, some of the things that are a requirement to complete this particular work might not fall within my remit. So, what I can then do is I can either pass this case by assigning it to the next person, but maybe I'm still working on the case. So, in order for the next person to not sit around and wait for me till I, uh, finish what I need to do with the case, maybe it's going to take me 3, 4 days to complete that task. Um, and we don't want the next team member, to just fold their hands and wait for the next person. So you can go ahead and create a child case which will be married to this case. And that child case, you will notice that it's got a parent, which is this particular case that we've got open. And you can put a subject on that child case, and maybe to the next person it's just a request that we want them to do something. And if we want to add a contact, but we've already got our customer who's Sam, if you want you can add them as a contact, but I think it's duplication. So in an ideal world, probably you would have to hide that field. So I will not add anything because we've already got Sam Smith who's a contact. And the origin could be the phone, and product if you have any products, and I'll save and close. So what you then notice, um, in the case relationships, child case has not come through. Why? All right, Summer Smith. The child case is showing in here, but the right place where you would want the child case to show is in here, and chances are um, this has not been configured to show that data properly, and you can simply just add an existing case, which would be that. No, why is it not adding the case? Yet. There we go. So now the child case is showing in here. Um, right, if we move along, earlier on I spoke of queues. So the concept of queues, you might have various teams that are within an organization, and you've got, for argument's sake, admissions department, you've got the finance department, you've got the student services department. So for all the teams that you have, or for all the users within the organization, they would have various uh, default queues for themselves, and I would have a queue. So if anyone was to put anything in my queue, it will be showing in here. So if a member of the finance team creates a case and they deal with that case and they push it to me, that case would show in my queue here. And then once it pops into my queue, I can then start working on that case. And if I need to resolve that case, I will then resolve it. And if I go back to cases, so if I open this particular case, and then try and resolve the case, what it then does, it tells me, it asks what I would want to put in there as a resolution reason. But this is not something which is set in stone. For every organization, people just put whatever values they feel, uh, you know, um, sufficient. So I can put a resolution to say um, student are registered. So say for instance they had a problem with registration, but that was resolved, and they're now registered, and we are finished with the case. I can put that in there, and any other remarks that I might want, to put, you can put them there, and then resolve that particular case. Right. So if I then navigate to cases again, uh, if I go into my resolved case, I should see this is the case that we resolved just a little while ago, and it will show the time that the case was resolved. And moving on to knowledge articles. There's a concept of knowledge articles in Microsoft Dynamics, and what it is, you might have a team that deal with uh, certain things, and they might, say for arguments, an inquiries team, and they've got various people that are asking various questions. So there's a lot of things, that happen within that department. And certain organizations, they build what is called in FAQs, frequently asked questions. So it's pretty much similar to that. So you can build your frequently asked questions and record them somewhere, and you can then append it here. So every member of the team, if they get a particular request from outside that they are not so sure about, they can quickly go to that article, which guides them on how to do certain things on this, or steps that they should do to process certain things. And it's then seen by everyone within their particular team. So I'll go ahead and create a new article. Right, and then for that article, I can decide to put keywords to say maybe this article is people asking regarding financial assistance. And whatever description I desire to put in there, and then put in the contents of or be it steps of what one is supposed to do, and then save and close that article. And then you notice that we've got an article in here which is in a draft state. The reason why it's in a draft state, we've configured our article section to have someone to approve the article. So it could be someone in management that will then go ahead and approve that article. Um, and then everyone, once it's approved, everyone can then be able to see that particular article. So now it's sitting in a proposed state, draft, review, and these are the statuses that can be used. So as you can notice, it's in a proposed state. Um, the other status is draft, where uh, it's there, but it's just waiting for someone to approve it. Or you can say it's gone beyond draft. Now it's ready to be reviewed by someone, or it's in review, you know, as we speak. And once uh, the article itself has been approved by someone, then everyone in the organization will be able to see that article um, within that particular team. Um, right. So if I navigate onto, yeah, and on our dashboard, like I said, this could be configured, in various ways. There's so many things that you can do with your dashboard. You would notice that we've already got two cases which are active, which are sitting in there, and it's denoted here by two. And this is one case, and this is another case. We resolved one case, and we can see that there's already one sitting in there. We've got two emails that are in a draft state. Um, So at a high level, you can see, and these are the activities, you know, the full set of activities that are in related, sorry, that are appended to myself. So they appear under my activities. So one activity was an appointment that I created, and then the other activity is an email, and another one is an email as well, which is this one here. So you can configure your dashboards to show a lot of information, depending on you know, what you would want to show on a dashboard, be it cases, be it you know, cases in the form of a pie chart. Say you've got loads and loads of cases, you can do that as well. And then on the matter of subjects that I was talking about earlier on, as you can notice, I was just pulling a default subject, but you can add more subjects and you can build subject trees as and how you know you like. So put another subject here, say it's called I'll save, and I'll put another subject also called admissions, and save. And finance, if I so wish, I can build child subjects within there. So say something to do with scholarships, and the parent child, I'll then you know, point it to finance and save it. Let me put another one. Let's say bursary. So you notice when I go and toggle finance, there is two child subjects that are in there. And if I was to go and you know, create a new case, if I wanted to create a new case and put a new subject, you will notice I can easily pick out you know, a new subject. Uh, I go to creating case. Right. I'll just call it subject. You'll notice I've got my subjects there, and then I can click into finance and select whichever subject I want you know, to append to that, or you know, if it's bursary, it could be that particular subject that I would want to append it to. And this could also be pointing to the various teams. So you could be having people within the finance team, but you have maybe 3 or 4 people that deal specifically with bursaries or scholarships, and it would fall into those people's queues. So those people can easily just pick out those various cases that are directed to them and start working on the cases straight away. Conscious of our time, what I'll probably do is with the permission of Deji, we can continue this customization and configuration, and then maybe next time we can start configuring forms and see how we manipulate forms. And there's so many things we will probably need to configure things like security roles so that people within a particular team, we can say people in finance, we do not want them to see anything or any cases that are related to maybe student welfare. So we might have a student welfare team, and student welfare team might be dealing with sensitive cases or sensitive information. So we can use certain things like putting them in different business units or giving them different security roles. But customization and configuration, to be quite honest, it's a course that takes about 3 to 5 days, where one spends about 8 hours every single day. And now we've only got 1.5 hours, so we can only scratch the surface. But what I can only do is I can try and give you as much information as possible, on the various things that probably people need to be aware of as we go along. I don't know, is there any more questions? Um, Sorry. How good is the analytics feature of Microsoft Dynamics 365 for e-commerce activities? Does it have visualization reporting features? Um, if you want to build enhanced reports that have more in-depth things where you manipulate data or you join hundreds and hundreds of tables, the ideal place to do that is through Power BI, and Microsoft Dynamics has got a connector to Power BI where you can harvest that data, and you then push it into into Power BI, create all the various reports or visualizations that might want, and then push it back into Dynamics 365. So you would obviously see that information um, exactly how you want to see it in Dynamics 365, but that report would have been generated in Power BI. But at a high level, it's got good enough features to show, activities. You can show your data in different, diagrams, be it, pie charts or, all sorts of charts that Microsoft has, inbuilt. But if you want a more sophisticated report, you can do it in Power BI and then push that back into Microsoft Dynamics, and it would show that data as and how you want it to appear. Do we have any more Any more questions? Let me try and get the link. Microsoft trial. Um, so yes, I've just posted. That's the link to the trial versions. If you go onto that link, you can pretty much select whichever one you would want. And for those of us maybe that intend on joining us next time, I would say pick out the customer service module. It's pretty similar. All of them, they are pretty much similar. It's just different things that they do. And then when we do our exercise next time, you could probably be customizing your instances as well. And I think it gives you about 30 days or so before the trial runs out. But next time, I'm sure we should be able to meet before 30 days. I can then give you a workaround where you can extend that trial to about a year or so. Okay, so yes, that's correct. Uh, Usually, what it does is it requires an organization email. It doesn't take, our usual Gmails and Yahoos, because it's a product that is meant to be used by organizations, to be honest. Okay. Do we have any other questions? We got the sort one, then there's no email with it now. So if you've got it now, that's brilliant. What I would say is, depending on when our next session is, I would say just go in there, click around like there's no tomorrow. Just get a feel of the product, and then probably before our next session, I can probably do a quick write up that I'll pass out to Deji, and get you to focus on certain things, so that when we meet up again, I can quickly take you through those things, and maybe at that point things will start to make sense. Right. Is there any other questions or right? Anyway, thank you very much for everyone, that took time to come out of their, busy lives to join us, on this particular course. I know it's quite a long course, but hopefully we'll try and impart as much information as possible, and you will be able to um, join, some of us within the Microsoft Dynamics space. It is or Microsoft Dynamics 365 space. It is a huge area which is growing and growing exponentially. And I think the best time to join Dynamics 365 space would be would have been yesterday, but the next best is today. So I would say let's learn as much as we can. And next time when we get the opportunity to talk about careers within the Microsoft Dynamics space, we can then look at things like, how do you move from one place to the next till you get maybe to be um, um, a manager or even a consultancy owner. And or what I'll probably do for those maybe that are struggling, I'll try and spin up a trial environment and then get whoever wants to play around in that environment to give their details to Deji, and then I'll add you onto that environment, and you can then start using that environment. So I can spin that up, and I'll get it ready for tomorrow. And then whoever wants to play around in that environment will be free to try out things. So leave it with me, and I'll say probably check with Deji by tomorrow afternoon. I should have it ready for everyone. And then whoever cannot spin their own instance can obviously just jump into that environment and have a butchers. Thank you, everyone. Have a good
Th-
evening.